We are here to talk about licensing, specifically monetization. The challenge that I ran into with our first app is there's the question of what do we do around licensing keys, and the SpareBrain Ideas licensing app was the answer to how we wanted to approach that. For those of you who are rejoining us, having watched the Untitled AppSource live stream, where we took a product that was a custom extension and brought it all the way through to an AppSource published extension with monetization built in. That 2-hour live stream included everything we're going to be talking about here today. This is meant to be the short, focused, narrow version. So if you've been sticking around with me for a long time, then you'll be getting a little bit of duplication there. But alrighty, let's go to actual stuff. What was the idea behind SpareBrain licensing? Let's pop this open. Thank you, PowerPoint. We're done with slide decks. So to find out lots more about it, the first place to start is, as usual, with the website for SpareBrain Ideas at sparebrain.com, and you head on over to the products section and you'll find our AppSource solutions, and in here you will find a bunch of info about the licensing app, which explains what is the idea behind it, as well as how to get it and how to look through it. So let's start with one of the core concepts. This is an extension that is available in AppSource. It is open source. The GitHub repo is right on this page, and you will find that you can dig through how the licensing app works. Part of this is because it is an application that needs to reach externally outside of Business Central systems. So we wanted to make sure that you can trust what is the code doing, and understand how it works so that you can potentially extend it yourself. The core concept of this is that you should be able to register an extension, an AppSource application, into this library and have whether or not that license key that the user has provided, or maybe has not yet provided, is still current and valid based on subscriptions. The mechanism that we chose to integrate right out of the box with this is with the Gumroad platform, because it allows for users to be able to purchase subscriptions to your product directly. For example, if we go over to the DataBrader product, our no-code solution for custom API making, we could, as a user, purchase a license key directly on Gumroad right here and just subscribe. Annual, monthly options, and part of this is as a company we needed a easy mechanism for doing all the subscription charges. We wanted to have VAT taken care of for us, which Gumroad does. We wanted to have the ability to have affiliates sign up and be able to receive a portion of any of the proceeds from subscriptions. So the Gumroad platform gave us all of those things. This extension is built to work with that, but as we'll dive into a little bit later, you can adjust it. Additionally, let's see, we need to validate, have functionality to validate that the key is still active if the credit card was unsubscribed or canceled or any of those things. And then we wanted to additionally have some logic that would allow for grace periods. So you could have someone install your app off of AppSource and just give it a try for a week, a month, whatever have you. We wanted to have differentiation between production versus sandbox. And for the purposes of we don't know with on-prem, all on-prem are considered production. And we also wanted to have a really easy central point that you can go to look to see what was the email of the person who subscribed to this license key, where do I go to potentially get support for this extension. And then additionally, we got the recommendation of it'd be really nice to have a central place for users to be able to see if there's any sort of update to the extension, and to be able to do that inside of BC if they don't have access to the admin center to see in their tenant admin if there are any updates. So just kind of a nice thing, and this gives you the ability, if you do implement the update functionality, to link directly to a web page where you can list all of the updates that are out there. And then there's some different events that you can hook into, and it's extensible. So, and I didn't clarify, but this is free. There's no charge for using this for your organization. As a result, there are probably features we don't have right now that maybe some of the paid solutions have. This is licensing per environment. So for example, production and sandbox are two environments. You potentially would need to theoretically license those two environments. There's not support at the moment for like company level licensing. We are going to be updating it in the very near future based on some feedback and internal needs. At the moment, the licensing is at the extension level, and we've been asked, can we potentially make it possible to do licensing per module within an extension, which was interesting enough of a notion that, yeah, that sounds like a good add. So we're going to do that. If you do want to see a full-blown how do you implement this in your product from beginning to end, by the way, our Spare Brain channel on YouTube, we have a great and popular one, the From AL to AppSource. This was me taking a custom extension and getting it onto AppSource. What do you need to know as a partner? And I'm impressed that we're well over 100 views of that for a 2-hour live stream. So that's pretty amazing, and that's just YouTube views, so thanks everyone. And if we get about 20 more subscribers, I can make our channel not look quite so ghastly in the URL. So let's see. So from an implementation perspective of what do you need to do to work with the licensing module? Well, for starters, if you need a runtime version of the application to include in pipelines, definitely just reach out to me. However, you can also just deploy it straight out of this GitHub repo in your PTE extension. I have the public version of it so that you can work with it and include it in your libraries and all that sort of thing. Specifically done in a PTE range, so that way you're able to work with it in any environment. You can deploy this, do whatever customization work. You can go ahead and just use this as a PTE solution if you really want to. That's perfectly fine. The other things to know about this is key steps. You need to register your app that you want it to be managed by this licensing engine, and then you need to choose what parts of your extension will be behind that licensing wall. So let's take a look in the wiki here. If we look at what's involved in registering the extension, there is a single function, nice and easy, that takes all the parameters in a code unit called the extension registration code unit. And what this looks for is what is, at the moment, your unique product code, which maps to the Gumroad ID, but can map to any code that makes sense for you. Where is the product URL that if someone wants to purchase the subscription for this key, where would they go, or where would they find out more info? A support URL for where do I go to find support information, and if there are any billing questions of what is this charge on my invoice, who do I contact, and if we want to a new version URL and update news URL. Places to ping to see if there's any new versions. And then we have to also choose what are the days allowed to use an extension before activation is required in production and all on-prems, regardless of test, or in sandbox. And I'll show you an implementation of this in just a moment or so. And then just for sanity's sake, if we ever introduce new features, a minimum licensing app version, for example, this licensing app right now is version 1. At some point in the near future, when we add the module-based licensing, if your extension requires module-based licensing, then you can put in that the minimum licensing version will be that 2.0 version. And that way, if someone already had this in their environment, they'll get a heads-up notice that they need to update their licensing app. We have an enum on here, which I'll talk to a little bit in just a moment about which licensing platform to use, and that's the story. If we look, for example, at our DataBrader product, we have a simple licensing code unit that is kind of our interface to the licensing extension, and this calls a process to in the install code unit, we do the register subscription I just talked about, where we say, okay, well, we want to register that this is the product code, and if they want to find out more, it's at this website to buy it. If they need support help, it's here. If there's any news about it, which is on our Twitter. And then we did, for DataBrader, 7 grace days in production, or even 60 in sandbox. So we made it very, very easy for DataBrader users to do a free trial for a couple of months in a sandbox environment. Go nuts. You know, we want you to try it and really know that this is a good product for your organization. And then once you've registered that, that will show up in our half asleep Docker instance here, which, yes, it's still 19. I haven't updated my demo Docker to 20 yet. I wasn't feeling brave this week. I look forward to playing with it, but I haven't gotten there yet. So, for example, our DataBrader product has been activated, and we could see here that the product URL is right here, and we jump right off to it and can potentially subscribe or whatever have you. If we were running in trial mode, it would have our grace end date and all that sort of stuff. So it's very straightforward in what the user can do. If there's any questions, who to email with their support questions. Cool. Okay. Well, that install code unit puts it into this list. Not bad. All right. But then what? What do you do with that? The very second step is, where do you want to check the licensing? What do you want in your extension to be behind the activation paywall? For example, you might have an extension that adds basic and advanced functionality, and the basic functionality you want anyone to use from AppSource. They can go nuts, but the advanced functionality requires a product key. Well, on your advanced code unit, your advanced pages, any of those things, that you would put that into this, you would put this function call into those parts of the system called check if active with your app ID, and whether or not you should display the info to the user that it's not activated. For example, in a code unit that's a job queue, you probably wouldn't want to try to pop a message to the user. Maybe you do. A question in the chat, per user-based licensing, you are correct. Per user-based licensing is not supported at the moment. Ooh, we have a pull request. Nice. Okay. But I am looking for feedback about the different licensing models. So if there are some ideas and user stories of how that would work, please absolutely come to the discussion, add some feedback here. I just didn't have a specific need for me, so I couldn't model that use case in a good way. I'm happy to add that functionality to this. And as you see, you can do pull requests against a repo. I'll add that in, make it official. That's fine. So, yes. Commenter, per user licensing not supported. It's pure environment at the moment. But, so where we left off in the check functionality in DataBrader, for example, I have nice and easy on my configuration page. I just have a single check on open page of check if the license is active. That's fine. Nice and easy. That's all. And, I did a little interface code unit inside of my solution. And you can add functionality into your world to have, checks and build product keys. For testing sake, I did, for example, a demo product key that I needed to give to a customer license. I don't mind that it's on stream. It's fine. I needed to do a demo product key that would work forever, but it's also only providing a limited data set. So I just had a nice little function that says, is it a demo install? Yeah, if that license key is a demo product key, then it's a demo install. I'll only provide a subset of data. Okay. But the main function is just check if active, and that's as straightforward as that. And you choose if you want to show an error message if the license is not active. It will do the date checking for you automatically to see if they're within their trial grace period and all that sort of thing. And in I believe it's in the repo, it should be, there is a diagram that explains exactly what, the activation workflow is when they enter their product key. At the moment, it goes out to Gumroad to verify the license. If it is successful, it will store this. It does a two-part storage system. It stores it right in the licensing subscription table, and it also stores it in isolated storage. So it does a couple of steps just to make sure we're being thorough about things. Yeah, so that's the general idea. Is basically, install this from AppSource or grab grab a clone of this repo. Oh, neat. There are already 4 forks of it. Huh. Cool. You can run this straight out of GitHub as a PTE and then just update the dependencies to the AppSource version if you want, or you can install it from AppSource, or you can contact me and I'll get you a runtime version. So what if you don't want to use Gumroad? You want to use your own license key validation platform? You've been building a great BC side solution or a Power App that will take a product key and it does all the wizardry and you just want to build them directly? Well, that was one of the early requests I got, is the platform is extensible. So on the process of registering an extension, as I mentioned, there is an enum called the license platform. When you're looking through the code, this enum only as a default has Gumroad as a platform. This is extensible, and it implements a licensing communicator interface that has the functions for calling an API for verification, checking if the API is right, what does a sample key look like, a few odds and ends. And as long as you implement that function, you can implement that interface. You can create a dependency on here and hook up to any licensing platform you want. You'll just need to create your own call API for verification functionality with the standard interface signature. It takes a extension license record and a couple of other just how does it go. So if you wanted to build an extension on top of this to do Stripe, for example, for the license key verification, sure, go for it. You can absolutely do that. So I don't know if this was a helpful kind of tour and walkthrough for folks. It is a free solution. If there's stuff that it doesn't do, hit me up in discussions, or if you want to do pull requests, which I wholeheartedly appreciate someone doing pull requests on this. Thank you, Christian. And I believe, yep. Again, it's free to use, and it's an interesting learning experience if you just want to crawl through some code to see how do you implement code around. No, okay. I've got some to-dos to do. Okay. Excellent. Well, then guess some updates are coming this month. Sounds good. All right. Well, if there's no further questions, then I guess stay tuned on Twitter, and you'll see there's going to be an update probably within the next couple weeks to have the module-based license, and I'll make sure all of these issues are also closed out, because I've been swamped in February, so this has been waiting and waiting. Definitely need to get that all fixed up. So, yep. Hopefully this helps everyone, and take care, everybody. One of the quirks to streaming, they have you click multiple buttons to stop it, so you end up having to be looking off in the distance. I'm going to have to